Well, I have been looking forward to getting you in the studio since the day you walked into the EBA Storyteller House. I'm so excited what your arrival means for us as a business, for our clients, for our team. So let's jump in and have a bit of a chat today about your perspective on how aligning people, brand and culture can impact every stage of an employee in the talent journey and perspective, I guess. And of course, sorry, Dave, can't forget you,
Thanks
and
very
you're
much.
here as
Yes,
well.
I am here, thank you.
Our resident HR nerd. Good to see you here today as well. But yeah, let's jump in.
Thanks, Hannah.
Let's do it. Okay, so question one, or theme one, that we'd like to dig into today is basically employer branding as a concept has been around for a really long time, but there are so many different interpretations of what it means, what it does, and the power of it. So I guess, what does employer branding mean to you?
Okay, great question. For me, employer branding and an employer brand is a long-term pursuit of being intentional and deliberate and conscious and consistent around how your brand and your company and your organisation is perceived by specifically your employees, but broader than that as well. And it's really the place that you hold in the minds of your current and your future and your desired employees, and how that relates to their identity and what they want out of their career and their workplace and their organisation that they join. So it's really about differentiating your employer brand as well from your competitors in your sector, but also beyond. And it's about how you bring that to life at every touch point. So it's, internally within your organisation and also outside that on all of your channels and at all stages of the employee's journey as well.
Love that.
Keep going, but I'll throw to you, Dave.
Yeah. I'm making notes as you go along. I love that. The first kind of word that jumped out to me that you said was about it being deliberate and intentional. And I think that's the key part for me. Everyone has an employer brand. Every individual has their own brand in the professional world, but it's whether you choose to influence it or not.
Yes.
Sometimes people will come to us and say, can you give us like one of those employer brand things, if you like?
Yes,
and it's like, you can't, it doesn't work that way.
You don't just take it off the shelf and give it to them.
Yes. You have one out there. It's whether you choose to engage with it and how you approach that.
Yeah, how you influence it.
Yeah, 100%. And the other one that jumped out to me was around differentiating your brand. I think that's a key one. And even if you're listening, if you just take up your career site and have a look at that and look at a few big brands and look at the career site and hold them all up kind of one beside each other, the homogeneity in there, they're all quite similar, saying the same thing. And that really weakens the value of that brand or that EVP, that employee value proposition, if you like, out there.
Yes.
So unless it has some differentiation to it, it's not as strong. So you could have greatly like curated brand, all the stories, all the videos, all the campaigns, all nice and polished. But if you kind of look at it and your reaction is meh, that's what you're going to take for what it's like to work there. Yeah,
and I think that has to sort of align with the reality of the employee experience as well and come from within. It can't just be, we're going to be this amazing employer brand and we're going to differentiate ourselves in this way without it being authentic and true to what the difference actually is that brand makes in employees' lives.
Yeah. And that's the piece that I think is sometimes lost. Like, employer branding, it sounds so normal and natural and a thing now and everybody kind of knows what it was, but like, when it kind of emerged in the late 80s, early 90s, it was kind of really groundbreaking. It sounds silly, but applying marketing and communication techniques and skills and expertise to attraction, recruitment, engagement. It sounds silly now, but at the time that was actually quite kind of groundbreaking.
Yes.
But what I see now is a lot where it's either one or the other. It's either a real kind of marketing brand communications focus or very external focused often as well.
Yeah.
Or it goes the other way where it's too focused on people and culture and it becomes all around that, and And really the value is the two of those working together.
Yes.
It's hand in glove, that's where it is.
Yes.
And I just see sometimes we've gone away from that original intent
Yes.
a little bit. It becomes a bit siloed.
Yeah.
And you can see them. You'll have seen campaigns where you can look and you can go, that's really a marketing campaign. But it doesn't really, it's nice and it's interesting and it's engaging. But it doesn't really tell me what it's going to be like for me to work in there.
That's
or
it.
make that sell of why should I give up what I have now.
Yeah.
And people, every person, when they're applying for a job, they are giving up something, even if it's a miserable job that they're in currently.
Yes.
They're giving up certainty.
Yes.
So it's a big decision.
Yeah. And they do have choice, you know. And I think your point about, you know, just being a campaign, an employer brand is so much more than a campaign. And it needs to be, it goes back to that long-term, you know, brand building. It needs to be embedded internally. It needs to be owned and used by all of your employees as brand advocates. And it needs to be that long-term effort across more than just, you know, beyond a campaign, you know, beyond, you know, just the development of your EVP, which is a really, you know, important strategic piece in it. It's about, okay, how do we then, you know, continue to bring that to life and execute it on an ongoing basis beyond just the, you know, the recruitment campaign. Yes, that's an important aspect, and you know, that's a really kind of strong opportunity to bring that to life. But what are you doing, you know, outside of that?
Your point about it being long term is key. For me, like I view an EVP, an employee value proposition, or the broader employer brand as a business solution for a business problem, first and foremost. And Hannah and the team be sick of me saying that again and again. What's the problem we're trying to solve, and go back to that. But I think it's really important because sometimes we can get caught up in, you know, the exciting campaign or the video or the day-to-day kind of work, the actual where the rubber hits the ground, and lose sight of, well, what are we actually trying to achieve?
Yes.
So we get caught up in trying to tell that one person individual story, which is an amazing story and it's great to share. But if that doesn't translate to whatever your goal is, whether that's applications or whether that's rewarding behavior internally or demonstrating how the value should be lived, whatever you're trying to achieve, you end up with a nice story, which is really, really nice. But that's not really what you've been tasked to do in there.
That's it.
So your point about long-term effort, like that, for me, that's strategic, as you said.
That's it.
That's in there. Strategy is medium to long-term. An employer a brand, any brand, is that medium to long-term investment because it's built up over time.
Yeah, that's right.
It takes so long to embed it, but it can be gone just like that.
Yeah, and I've got so many clients that I've worked with, particularly in that brand and marketing and comm space, where I think you get sick of your own messaging and your own, you know, like strategy before everybody else, you know, remembers it and knows it. So I think it can be tempting to kind of go back to the drawing board and go, oh, let's do another campaign. Let's refresh our, you know, what we're going to take to market. I mean, yes, you have to evolve your EVP and your employer brand over time. Yeah. But it's staying true to those golden threads that you want to keep, you know, tying it all back together to that kind of that strategy and that, you know, and that business strategy that underpins it all. So yeah.
And a big part of it is trust. You know, a brand is a brand, but if you don't trust it, well then it's like it's a brand that you're not connected to and you have no interest. So there needs to be that trust in there. And I think that's something we've seen kind of in the world of work a lot recently, is that erosion of trust. You know, that psychological contract between the employer and the employee has shifted in every organization. We were like, oh, no, you don't have an office. Everyone go home and work in the pandemic and go work at home as quick as you can. And then it was like, oh, no, now you have to come back. But maybe 2 days, maybe 3, maybe 4. We'll see. We're not sure. And it's all over. And in the meantime, things like our values and stuff, we'll just shelve them because they're really inconvenient at the moment. Yeah. So that erodes the trust. And we see, you know, downsizing or right-sizing or whatever people want to call it. But we see a lot of change in workforce, the makeup of workforces now. And that's trust because those decisions might be made in a boardroom somewhere on a spreadsheet somewhere, and they need to be, you know, they're business decisions. But for the individual, that it doesn't get more personal than your job.
Yes, yes.
You know, because your job is providing for yourself, your family. In many cases, your job is your identity.
Totally.
You know, if you're a vocational role or something like that. So it doesn't get more personal. You're not selling Mars bars here.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
This is it's really, really important.
That's it. Yeah. So in a branding sense, you know, it has to be almost more important than any other brand that you interact with. You touched on something, Dave, in terms of trust that I think is important, because for me,
occasionally I'd like occasionally, so it's good. I got a win in there. I touch. Note that one down, Hannah.
I will. I have.
Yeah, thanks.
But for me, you know, you can't say as a brand, trust us. You know, it's
that's a great way to not be trusted.
That's it, exactly. It's about how
me.
you deliver on your promises is how you build trust. So, and that, you know, that's really an important part of employer branding, and that's why it's important to focus on how it translates internally within an organisation, but then how you're communicating that externally is aligned to what you can actually deliver on. You know, yes, it needs to be aspirational in terms of the organisation that you want and need to be in alignment with your business strategy, and what your people need to do to help you deliver on that. But it also has to be, you know, grounded in what you're prepared to you know, if you're going to say that this is a great place to work for these reasons, you need to be able to deliver on that.
I think that's really interesting, because the word trust is one that probably doesn't naturally come to my vocabulary when I'm thinking about employment and workplace. But it comes when I think of relationships, it comes with friendships and that sort of stuff. But the more I understand, the more you're speaking about, I'm like, of course, it's something you've always felt, but I haven't been able to articulate the importance of having trust in my employer, in the workplace, in my team, and the role that plays on how I feel about showing up each day. So really, thank you for giving me that vocab, and just it's incredibly empowering to think of it in that way.
It's fundamental to who we are as people. You know, we're tribal. We've been that way for hundreds of thousands of years, and you protect your tribe and who's close to you in there, and you have a healthy suspicion of the other that's out there, because it might eat me or attack me or all of those things. So we've had like hundreds of thousands of years of that being embedded in us. And the corporate world, if you like, if we just focus work on that, has really only existed since like the 1900s, you know, like late 1800s, kind of when offices and things emerged. So that's relatively new. So that hasn't changed our psyche, our evolution, our way of thinking. So the trust is the same. Is this my tribe? And you know, sometimes we can see that in branding and employer brands that go out there, and it's a little bit kind of, you know, we're all one family, and it's like, well, not really, because there is an employer-employee relationship in here. But there does need to be that sense, as you described, where I feel comfortable, I can be myself here, I feel like I can deliver, I feel like I can contribute, I can be a part of something. That's the same kind of thing. So you need to have that in there as much as possible.
And that tribal element, you've sort of touched on something for me, which I've been thinking about, is, you know, when you think about storytelling, and, you know, when we all used to sort of sit around the fire, and I still do it when I'm camping, you know, you sit around the fire and you tell stories and you connect over stories. And that's how, you know, you talked about emotion and how you know, a brand makes you feel. It's those people stories that are really important to bring a employer brand to life, and to be able to understand what that means for people, and to be able to connect on that emotional level. So yeah.
And I don't think there's ever been a time, that certainly not that I can remember, where the importance of it's so important connection at the moment. People are missing it. People are lacking it.
Yes.
Whether that's, you know, connection to their work and the people they work with, but even connection to things like your community, your church, your place in the world. All of that's kind of been eroded, and we were talking about, you know, trust reports and everything, and they're going down in there, and it's all tied in together.
Yeah, I think we're asking so much more of our workplaces as well now, in terms of
100%.
what they need to give me as an individual, because we're missing that connection outside of that. So, you know, I think that connection to the organisation's purpose and what impact I'm going to have as an individual on the world, you know, that's really important to people more than ever, I think.
So I think we're agreeing too much
Okay.
on this.
Sure.
So I'm going to
full
to
Dave
change it up
mode.
and ask the full Dave mode. So we're agreed on kind of lots of the fundamentals, the approach in there, but there are kind of obviously different perspectives on employer branding, and one of them is kind of where should it sit? Who should own the process or the approach in there? So with I even got my HR glasses on and everything like that. I'm going to say the rightful kind of place for it to sit, acknowledging it. Everybody has a response. It can't just sit there, same as like leadership or values. It can't sit in there, but there needs to be someone to curate it and to move it forward and progress it. And I say that the natural place for that to sit is in people and culture.
Yep.
And I'll be interested in your thoughts. Where do you think, Marci?
I think it needs to be a joint, a partnership between people and culture and brand communication, marketing. I think
Very diplomatic. You're much more diplomatic than me.
I think, obviously the brand comms and marketing teams tend to be the custodians of the brand, the corporate brand, and the employer brand needs to be intrinsically linked to the corporate brand and the customer facing brand. But obviously, people and culture need to be part of project partners in the employer brand from the beginning of its development, because as I said earlier, it needs to come from within. And the best example I've seen was a project that I worked on a couple of years ago. I won't say the client, but it actually started from, I'd worked on the brand strategy, which was led by the head of brand and comms and marketing. And when it came to, okay, well, what does this mean in terms of our EVP and our employer brand, that was really, people and culture and brand and comms and marketing at the table with myself to just determine how this process should look and how the brand strategy links to the employer brand and the EVP. And so that meant that we got the best outcome, because having people and culture and brand comms and marketing at the table from the beginning of an employer brand, process, I think is really important, because not only does that get the best outcome in terms of bringing their own unique perspectives to the project, they're both coming at it from slightly different lenses, but also you're more likely to get ELT and the board to endorse it once it's developed, because it's been a partnered approach. And the other thing is that when the employer brand links to the corporate brand and it's all teams are working together to embed it and bring it to life, that's when the magic happens, And so I think, I really think that in an ideal world, and I know that's not going to be possible for every organisation, that it really needs to be people and culture and brand comms and marketing together, shaping and sharing this employer brand.
Yeah, the word I think you had in there was integrated, which again that's another kind of feature of strategy. It's like it's not very strategic if all these areas are doing their own thing and not in there. It's around how they connect and align. And I'm probably similar in the projects where I've seen it's been most seamless and gone well and gotten the maximum value out of a project, is where marketing, comms, TA, talent attraction, HR, people and culture, whatever you might call it, all kind of are in that first kickoff meeting and go along, and they're all there, and it's not a surprise, and you can go, there's been thought around this and connected, because it means those people are already thinking around how they're going to execute it down the line.
Yes.
Like just for an EVP project, well,
That's it.
you have your EVP now. It's going to need all people there doing their part and bringing their expertise. So that's always good. You can sometimes see it like on an org chart where maybe the CMO and the CPO, the head of people and culture and the head of marketing and comms, they sit under like an executive of corporate affairs or that kind of corporate services type role.
Yes.
And that kind of coordinates it or helps it go sometimes.
Yes.
But you're right, it's different for every, I think, organization, and even I think there's a debate within people and culture of where would it sit. If it was to sit with people and culture, and I kind of agree with you, It does need to be, no shared, but it does need to sit somewhere. Someone needs to be
Yes.
accountable
Yes.
for moving it forward. It can't be like run by committee either. Like any
Yes.
project, there needs
Yes.
to be
a
someone
project
who,
owner
yeah,
and someone
exactly,
who can
yeah,
drive
exactly.
it forward. Yes,
Exactly. But even within
Yeah.
HR, you can go, well, employer brand and EVP is so often externally focused. And you go, all right, well, it should sit with recruitment and selection, with TA, talent and talent attraction. And you go, that would make sense. But then the external bit is the promise you put out to the world. But as you said earlier on, it's about the reality of what the actual experience is like. Just like with any brand, if you go, oh, this brand is great and it's selling me this and I trust this, and then you get that product or service and you're like, pretty disappointed and
That's
miserable.
it.
It doesn't work. So you could say then it should sit with, business partnering, HR business partnering, or it should sit with employee experience, or maybe part of your strategy and your employer branding and EVP is actually to change the organization. You're going through a change or a transformation. So maybe then it should sit with the change management office.
Yes.
That's it. That's in there. I've one quick question because I came across it recently.
Sure.
The communications team, if there is one, where should that sit? Because that's an ongoing debate, which even I'll give a different answer depending on the day.
And I've come across organisations where there's no one from a comms background on the ELT. And, you touched on when there's change and when there's, transformation, or when there's, a crisis or issue, it's how you communicate that, is
what matters.
Is what matters. And,
Yeah.
I also think, communication is the most important currency within business, and
It's scarce supply sometimes.
yeah. And so having someone with those, skills and expertise to help guide, other, functions within an organisation is a value and shouldn't be overlooked.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm reflecting on little old Hannah and her formative career years in internal communications. Like I spent some time in internal comms, and I can still very clearly remember the day that they said, oh, look, we are moving you across, HR is going to be leading this function. And we were so confused because we didn't understand the power behind that. But it quickly became so apparent that when we were involved in those conversations with P&C, HR and TA, why it was important, because we were all acting in silos and together we became so much stronger, and the result and the employee engagement and everything that came after that, it was just so intuitive. But I think the real misstep was not informing the team as the power of working together. We still held our cards very close. We're like, oh no, that's your side, this is ours.
You wanted ownership.
Yeah, we
over it
wanted
still.
ownership. We didn't
Yes.
understand the power. And I think if looking back, if that had been communicated differently as to why we should sort of build each other up and not work in these silos still, it would have been a much quicker sort of journey to great.
And back to that brand building piece, I think that is the power that we have as teams within an organisation, is if we're all working towards the same goal and the same outcome, just think about how powerful that can be, both internally in terms of, empowering and giving your employees the tools, the language, the permission to be brand advocates for, an organisation, through to, how we all together at a leadership level use the brand to help us achieve our business outcomes.
I've one little anecdote or story to kind of share on where internal comms should sit, and came across an organisation before, and I was doing my due diligence at the beginning and going through the org chart, and could see all the different functions and see how it mapped out. And it was a big organisation, but there was this box down in the bottom right hand corner, like way down and there was no lines, it wasn't connected to anything, so of course my eyes drawn straight over there, and you look, and that was internal comms, and the name in the little box was just vacant. And it sat over there, and lo and behold, as I got to know this organisation a bit more, communication internally was an issue, and it was actually lots of separate cultures and separate organisations rather than a cohesive one. But I just found it amazing that it was clearly they knew that, because even if the role was filled, it wasn't connected to any way. It was like, we'll just put that aside for now.
Yeah, and I think that's, they clearly there was a misalignment in terms of the value of that role and that, the importance of that communication
We'll
function.
say they were on a journey. They were on a journey. We'll use that one.
And look, we work with clients where they don't have, a huge amount of roles within an organisation. Sometimes it is the CEO wearing all of these hats or the COO. So
all my departments get on really great because they all live in my head. It's like, yeah.
So yeah, we understand that that's a challenge for our clients, and I guess that's where we can help and add value.
I feel as though I've lived the best and the worst of employee branding. I have lost trust in organisations. I've had trust built again. I've been through, the formative career years. And I guess the knock-on effect. I feel as though I've experienced what happens to somebody when they are in a workplace that is not right for them.
Yeah.
I feel like we all have.
Honestly, I still dream. There's this. I mean, I don't need to go into detail, but I still wake up. You know how some people have those dreams about being in an exam at school and waking up in a panic. Mine is going back to this workplace, and I have these dreams that I wake up. I've gone back to this workplace. So I was like, oh my God, wake up in a cold sweat. So
that's spot on, because that's what employer brand is. It's not the likes of the comments and whatever. It's what someone feels about their work, and then what they choose to share about it.
Yes.
Oh, honestly, I used to turn up
that
each
can
day.
happen with like a values misalignment,
exactly.
or a cultural, misalignment where you've sort of been sold something that's not the reality, and then you've sort of turned up and it's not right. So
I really, really agree with that, and I often reflect, and I use the term a lot in my formative career years, because I think about the people new to the workforce and entering a workforce, and if the employee brand and how that makes them feel and how that's setting them up for the rest of their career.
Yeah.
Like if you're entering a workforce that breaks trust or it sets unrealistic expectations or the values alignment is so far from who you are as a core, it's going to take a lot of unlearning to get you back to what your potential is. And my heart really goes out. That's where I look at employee branding as being so, so important. Obviously in so many different ways. But
and I think you've touched on something there, Hannah, in terms of meeting people where they're at, depending on who they are and where they are on their career journey. Because, we talk a lot about, or in marketing, we talk a lot about generations, and it's got to resonate with Gen Zs, and you've got to be on TikTok if you want to, connect with them, and, boomers versus Gen Xers versus millennials. And I think that's fine, but depending on where you're at in life, whether you're starting out in your career or you're 15 years in, or you're a veteran or ready for retirement, there's also other factors and the context in which you're operating where that influences what's important to you in a workplace, and it's not just your age or your demographics. It's about what you want out of a company, in terms of that value exchange. What value you want to derive from an organisation, and that's based on your experiences prior to that company. And so I think it's a lot more complex than we can give it credit for.
The generations for me are always over kind of simplified. They're useful as a starting point of the discussion, but there's more variation within generations than there is across them.
Yes.
So it's just not a useful. To your point about life stages, that's 100% more valuable. So what's important to me in an employer, what I look for if I'm looking for a job, if I'm planning to buy a house and really focused on that. Now, I could be doing that in my 20s. I could be doing that in my 30s. I could be doing that in my 40s or 50s.
Yes.
Not at any point. But your focus then is like, you're going to be more focused on the money and building that up. But if you're at the life stage where you maybe have a settled relationship and you have a house and maybe you have kids and you're kind of financially secure, maybe you're at that point, maybe you are looking for a bit more satisfaction from your work, or maybe you're looking for flexibility. And now that could be a requirement again in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s. It depends. Your 50s and your 60s, you've got caring responsibilities for parents and stuff. So it's not so much about the lottery of when your birth date was. It's 100% about life stages.
And so for an employer brand, when it comes to the execution of it, it's about how do you identify and then articulate and bring that to life visually in a way that's going to connect with the right people at the right time in the right place. And so that has to, it's not just a one size fits all, you know, it really has to be tailored, and an employer brand has to be relevant in and be in the world of the people that they're trying to connect with.
So Marci, then what would your advice be for someone sort of thinking bigger picture than just generational, like breaking someone down, thinking that persona work? What is step one of making sure that you're reaching your target audience, regardless of when their birth year is, in the right way?
I think it's really taking a step back and understanding your audience and who you're actually wanting to recruit. Who do you need for the organisation that you need to be in the future, and the employer brand that you want to be, and then really kind of spending some time drilling down into who are these people, what matters to them, you know, where are they, where do we need to attract them from? Is it within Australia? Is it overseas? Is it within our community? And what do they care about, and who are they? Yeah, I think there's a lot of work, a deeper work that organisations can do to really think that through, to then, you know, from even a budget perspective when it comes to execution, being really strategic and targeted with where that employer brand, you know, can be executed.
It's I love the piece around how you framed it around understanding, because sometimes people just say, oh, it's just about reaching the audience, and that's no good. That's communicating at people and just throwing it and hope some of it sticks. Since I passed a certain age, we'll say, it's amazing like how my algorithm has changed. The ads, I keep getting. Apparently everything I need to buy now as a man of this age needs to be camouflaged and fit for military service. Everything. It's like, here, you need these combat trousers that can go to the moon. And it's like, I don't really, thanks. The best one example was a water bottle, and it was like titanium built to achieve anything, and it was camouflaged. But it's like, I won't be able to see it if it's camouflaged. It's like a key piece of function of a water bottle is if I'm out and about, I want to be able to see it and pick it up. It's like, who am I hiding it from? But apparently, just as soon as I ticked over again, generation, it went tick. All right, here we go. Now everything needs to be focused on that, and it's like, I do wonder about that targeting piece that's in there. Even like, well, this generation, they're all on Instagram or TikTok or whatever the next one might be that they're on. So we have to go and reach them there. And for me, it's about attention. It's not just where they are and where they're spending the time. It's actually about where their attention is, and it's about timing. So, for example, if I'm on TikTok or Instagram and I'm scrolling and looking at stuff, I'm not really looking for a job, and I really don't want to know about how you're offering 1% extra superannuation in your supermarket in the other side of the country. It's not there for me. Now, you can say there's a role in there for building awareness and for doing that and everything, but it's kind of like, for me, it's around the funnel and at what point and where you get in there. So it's different kind of channels, if you like, for different goals at different parts of that funnel.
Yes, and then it's sort of you going back to, are we targeting our desired future audience, which is important, particularly for, you know, talent pooling, and you know, that can, you know, in time, if you have the budget to do that and be in that awareness stage for a long time, you know, that can then reduce your cost to recruit. But you're right, if it's really about, we need 200 people next week, or, to help us with this project, then it's being a lot more targeted in terms of who's looking for a role, you know, now, and where do we need to show up to, and what do we need to say to connect with them, you know, based on what they're looking for.
I agree. I want to circle back to a term that Dave used, talking about the funnel. Often when you talk about the tunnel, the tunnel, oh my goodness, the funnel. Talk about the funnel, you think marketing, you think about a product at the end, or trying to get someone to buy. You don't often associate a funnel and thinking of each different step and how you can apply that to the candidate journey or the employee experience. And I think that is an opportunity for organisations to really dig into and understand what their funnel looks like, where it's strong, where it's weak, where people are falling out of it, and what they can do to zip it on up. It's the right term. I looked it up.
Yeah.
Zipping up
But
a
also
funnel.
Zipping up a funnel.
beyond the funnel in terms of attracting new potential employees, it's about what about the people that are currently working in your organisation that you want to retain, and or the people that have left that you want to bring back, or the people that were interested 2 years ago or 12 months ago that might be right now because they've, moved their career on. So I think, I think it is short-sighted to just be going out to as many people as possible and that kind of scattergun approach, because there's a lot more, there's a better way to really be, targeting the people that are going to make a difference for your organisation and be right for where you are as an organisation.
100%. I'm gone off on a tangent. I just wrote down funnel, and the first 3 letters are fun. So there you go. There's a question for Marci that you weren't ready for. How do you put the fun back in the funnel?
Oh my gosh. How do you put the fun back in the funnel?
Yeah, there
What do
you
you
go.
mean?
So if I think about the process, the candidate journey going through, it is going to be quite kind of standard. You become aware of the job, and you kind of make a decision that you're looking for a job, and you go through the steps and actions, and eventually you end up sitting in an interview being really awkward. So that everyone kind of has that in their head of that's what's happening. And you could go, well, we can change this to make it more effective and interesting, but there's also a little bit you're expected to do it. So for example, if I went through a recruitment experience and it was very, very different, I'd be a little bit going, what's going on here as well? There's comfort in predictability.
Yes.
But there must be an option in there as well to also make that an engaging experience in of
Absolutely.
itself. So that's the fun I'm talking about. So rather engaging rather than necessarily fun. What would you do along that candidate journey? You've applied for jobs over the years, and Hannah, you've applied for jobs over the years, as we all have.
I have an answer. I'm
Oh,
itching.
good.
I'm
All right.
absolutely itching to share with you. So we have a client at the moment who I think is doing something really fun to use, but really phenomenal in terms of their
Phenomenal.
phenomenal. Oh no, Dave, stop! But it really focuses on the employees who have exited the organisation and they really want to come back, and they send them a playlist to nurture them, keep them going, and it's all this I miss you, I come back, all these ballads of no. I mean, they include
80s power ballads.
Exactly. And I think it's such a fun way to stay connected in an unexpected way, in a human way, and really leaning into what people value at the moment. And so there's stories about what you're missing, what you're doing, but the playlist I think is so unexpected and so wonderful, and that for me is just gold.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about, you go.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a really good point. Like that alumni cohort, if you like, is so key, because if you have someone who goes, I'm not happy for, and this week I've spoken to 2 employees at different organisations who shared pretty much the same story, and they were at this current organisation, but they'd left and come away, so like a boomerang employee, if you like, and they both said, different sessions, different times, they both said, I had to go away to realise what I was actually looking for. Thought I was looking for this, and I went away, but then I came back, and they were so appreciative and positive and engaged, and they were way more engaged, because sometimes you do need a bit of distance. And one of them spoke about breaking the rut, and I needed to go away. I actually
Breaking the rut?
Breaking the rut.
Oh.
The rut.
That's the accent.
breaking that, and I kind of needed the distance to do it. But often when we'll see there's the buyer's remorse bit, so somebody leaves and they go to the other organisation, and if it's not right, you kind of know it in the first week. You kind of go in and go, oh, what I promised wasn't what I got, and everything like that. The organisation they've left, though, we don't make it that easy for them to come back.
No.
And it's a simple thing. Your manager rings you at the end of the week on how's it going. You can come back if you like, because you haven't filled that role.
Yeah.
Maybe you have, and you're super organised and everything as well, but it's unlikely that role is filled. And reaching out to them, but people will go, I can't go back because of losing face and all of that emotional stuff.
I need the 1 year on my resume. It's going to look
all of that stuff. But if you make it safe for them to come back, and open that door, even just as a cost saving, because the cost of recruiting someone known from there, this is a tried and proven person, and they can come back and you can have that chat around what they were missing or looking for. So that example of the playlist is like a really kind of fun way of
that.
doing that and putting it in. Like I would feel more comfortable about going back there because they've just taken that heavy emotion away from it and made it accessible.
But even doing your onboarding, sorry, cut you off, onboarding like a playlist, like I think it could be a really fun way of getting someone, I don't know, ready to join the team, of getting to know, rather than introducing your team, introducing, oh gosh, like this is what we're listening to. I don't know. I just think it's a really human way of connecting. I think that so much of this process gets so clinical that we forget the really beautiful human moments that make us feel warm and fuzzy. And I think that's just beautiful and so important.
And I think, if you want to be an organisation that attracts people back, the alumni, you have to be really conscious of how you treat people when they leave, but also while they're, at your organisation. We've talked about, Dave, you and I, the power of, an onboarding, but also reboarding when you're coming back from maternity leave or paternity leave. The power of, rather than just an exit interview, a stay interview, So I think there's a lot that organisations and employer brands can do, as a matter of course, to keep the great employees that they have, because obviously that's going to be less costly than having to recruit in the first place.
And it's bizarre because so many organisations know that from a consumer point of view. They all know that it's cheaper to retain a customer than it is to acquire a new one, and they can measure it and everything, but they don't kind of applying those marketing brand techniques to the people experience side.
Yes.
Because again, retaining that person, if you've someone coming back from parental leave, you'll go, they're coming back. They're going to be a different person in some way, different responsibilities. Like even a minimal level, they're going to be a different person. And the organisation has hopefully moved on as well.
Yes.
You would imagine. So it makes sense that. But often we don't put that effort in. It's kind of like, that person is coming back to a team which half of them have moved on. So it's a new team, and they're just going, we'll just kind of put them there, figure out what to do with them later.
Yes.
So it's just terrible. No wonder.
We both relate to that.
100%. And as someone who has been re-onboarded after having a gremlin, I love them dearly. It was even the expectation of knowing I was going to be re-onboarded, because there is this fear of coming back. But knowing it's like, okay, I know I'm going to be welcomed back. I know I'm going to be brought up to speed. It made my re-entry into the workforce calmer. And rather than just arriving and being like, oh, wow, I get this. I don't know.
That pressure and stress.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
For sure.
I guess to wrap this up, if people listening today, or if people are listening today, what is the one takeaway or the one action, the one piece of homework that you would like them to take away and say, you know what, I can take this, I can do this, I'm going to apply it? What would be the one thing?
My answer is always it depends.
No.
So there's no short answer in there. But what I say sometimes is do something. Sometimes we create this like it's a big project in our head, and we have to get all the pieces and everything has to be perfect. But don't let perfect get in the way of good. And you can often start small. Like, think, how many job ads do you put out every day across your organization? And it was like, just tweak one of them, play with it, try something. Be a little bit brave. I talk about. I do have a short one that you can use. So sometimes I talk about the ABCs of employer branding. And for me, that the A is authentic. So again, you have to be real. If the promise doesn't match up to the reality, you're just creating work and angst and tension for everyone. The second one, B, is brave for me. And we talked earlier on about the kind of homogeneity, however, they're all kind of a little bit samey and a little bit meh. So you need to be brave. You need to take a bit of risk. That's what differentiation is. You need to stand out from that crowd a little bit. And I appreciate that's not easy for every organization and every kind of culture. And the last one, C, is be convincing. So be authentic, be brave, be convincing. It needs to be convincing to do something. So it's not just that nice story that you read and you go, it was a nice story, and you move on with your life. It should be convincing me to share that post, to consider what I have currently, to consider you as a great place, to pass on the job you've shared to someone in my network. It should like push a behavior or change in some kind of way. If it's internal focused, you've shared a story about the great work Hannah has done in the organization, and this is in there. As an employee, I should be looking at that and going, that's authentic and real, and I can see the words in there. I can see the bravery in there, but it's convincing me to go, that's what that value looks like, or this is what the organization recognizes and celebrates, so maybe I should think about the same.
Yeah.
So there you go, ABCs. Take 'em away.
ABCs.
Oh, I have a
As
less,
short and simple as Dave gets.
I have a less, structured answer to that. But I think it's coming back to people don't connect with brands; they connect with people.
100%.
And so, think about your employer brand through the lens of your people, the people that you're currently, in your organisation, and the people that you want to connect with, and think about. How do you show up in a way that's going to resonate with them in terms of where they're at in their lives? I think that would be my key takeaway, and really, rather than this sort of, here's our employer brand and this is our campaign tagline, what's gonna tailoring that to what's going to mean something to different people depending on where they're at and the channels and the context in which they're consuming it.
100%. Cool. I think that's a good spot to
end.
to wrap it up for sure.
Excellent.
I feel like we could keep talking for another 3
know,
hours.
yeah.
Oh
we
yeah,
could
and
go.
we will. Excellent. Well, thank you. It's wonderful both to get your perspectives.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited.